Hello, my name is Joyce Fitzpatrick, and I'd like to welcome you back to the Flourishing series. Today is called Finding Delight and Awe in the Mundane, and it's a little bit different than the previous sessions. Up to now, we've been really looking at ideas to engage and connect with a person in our care, somebody living with dementia. Today is really a fuller discussion. It's about the everyday. It's about the ordinary and how we can find the extraordinary in the ordinary. If you consider in your own lives, our lives are full of busyness. There's just so much going on. I have a lovely book here by Anne Morrow Lindbergh, who was married to Charles Lindbergh, the aviator. And it's called Gift from the Sea. It's an absolutely beautiful little book. And in it, she goes to the seaside and she tries to find a simple life away from all the commitments and the everyday busyness. She describes here what life is like for most of us for many, many years. Life involves so many things: the plumbing, the refrigeration, the dishwasher, radio. It involves appointments, cod liver oil, vitamins, school trips, conferences and carpooling, going out to concerts, shopping, laundry, cleaning, mending, letting skirts down, and sewing buttons on. So many arrangements, so many commitments, that a time comes in our life when hopefully we can live a simpler life. Hopefully a person has the chance to retire, to take some leisure, some holidays, to take a few trips and to slow down. And very often a person with dementia is of an age where they have a very busy life behind them. And it must be dreadful to go into a nursing home or to be looked after when one's memory is getting a little bit dodgy. It must be awful to have people forcing you into activities. You know, it's Tuesday, so we must go out to bingo. Come on, get ready, get dressed, or let's go. It must be annoying when a person maybe just is feeling like sitting and staring. We know from earlier discussions that when we're choosing activities for a person, we very often go back to their life. So for example, a man who worked as a milkman or a postman likes to get up early in the morning. Maybe that would be his normal routine. So that might suit him when he's older. But there's also something about taking time for just the ordinary for all of us. So some days we get up earlier, and those days we might just notice the sun rising. And that can be great. Or sometimes we can hear the birds singing. But if you're living somewhere and you're held down to a regime that suits the staff, that might not fit well with the staff. They'll be looking at you and your hierarchy of needs, and they'll be saying, no, this person needs to get up, needs to have their breakfast before such a time, and this and that and the other. So very often, if I'm a person living with dementia, I can feel myself pushed and shoved by the people who are supposed to be caring for me, and indeed the family. And that can create anger and resistance. And it's no wonder why some people withdraw, because maybe all they want to do is sit and stare. I have said here that this session will focus on how silence and stillness can bring happiness. I think we all know that there's nothing more lovely than to sit in our room with the sun pouring in the window and just have a cup of tea. Just take 15 or 20 minutes off from thinking. There was a number of us doing rushcraft there last week, a couple of weeks ago, and we were all saying that we were so occupied with our fingers that we didn't have time to think. There was great peace in that, escaping from monkey mind, being caught up in the moment, caught up in a creative activity. There's great delight in simplicity. So there are some people in later stage dementia, and all they want to do is to look at a pair of mountain socks and feel them and remember that knitting them or whatever, wearing them. For my mother, it was an apron. My mother used to love having on her lap. And as a dressmaker, she would feel all the seams and look at the threads and look at the hem and different parts of it. She really enjoyed that. So simplicity is wonderful, particularly in later life. I have a little all ragged book here on indoor gardening. And I'm remembering how indoor gardening has brought to so many people great, great happiness. A small little plant or a flowering little piece of a shrub in a pot or something can be just really wonderful, can bring great delight. Or sometimes a little teddy bear, little bird, something doesn't even have to be real. Something that one can focus on or can hold in one's hands. Of course, speaking of hands, hands are the area where we most express ourselves during our lives. And I think for carers, it's really essential for a carer to understand the power of the hands, their own hands and the hands of the person with whom they are looking after. There are beautiful, beautiful hand meditations and hand massage and hand reflexology on YouTube. Absolutely beautiful. There's a 7-minute one that doesn't even use cream or oil or anything and teaches us how to massage our own hands. Just when we have a couple of minutes to sit there, to appreciate our hands and reflect on our life, on all that those hands have done and all the places those hands have been and all the good they've done. And sometimes the hurt that they have experienced, but the consolation that they were able to give to another. Hands remind us of all the creativity, the baking of bread, the brushing of hair, the hoovering of the floor and the washing of the dishes. So they're a wonderful, wonderful way to bring stillness into a person's life, to focus on hands. Now, some people would be very self-conscious of their hands and they'd be saying, oh, no, 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 my hands are not good and that's my bad hand and this, that, and the other. And we must forget all of that. And maybe even in the half light, as the poets call it, in the half light of morning or night, have massage, have holding. And let a person hold something that they love to hold, something that feels good to them. I have feathers here. I know somebody who just loves feathers. Other people love wool. You might love to hold an apple or a rock from the beach. Like a great pleasure out of a bean bag or something cool or a hot water bottle, So the hands are wonderful. In an earlier series, we talked about the hand under and the hand over. In our life, we use our hands, they're very powerful, and they're usually over. We're turning handles, we're pushing the car, we're washing the clothes, and it's only when we turn our hands up, or when we reach up and we need something, we reach up for somebody to give us a lift, or give us a sandwich, or give us money. That's of a different order altogether. So we think about that, the importance of hands. And in our care of the other person, we're just reminded that the hand under can do so much. You can help a person to wash their teeth, to pull up their zips, to brush their hair, to put the picture on the wall where they want it, to arrange flowers by your hand under their hand. And how wonderful that is for somebody in late stage dementia. If we had a penny for every time we are asked, in engaging dementia. What do we do with somebody in late stage dementia? If we had a penny, we'd be millionaires, because it's not what you do with them, it's what together you do. Together, the two of you, together is better. It's what that person and you, the meeting together, the connection. Now, as I said earlier, some people through busyness have lost the direction. I have a lovely poem here by Patrick Kavanagh called Advent. I wonder if you're familiar with it. It's a wonderful poem addressed to a person who's jaded by life, who's worn out, there's just too much happening. And he's recommending that we go into the Advent darkened room, to get back simplicity. And this is an idea that would have been very real in Ireland a couple of years ago, this idea of Advent or Lent, and in certain other religions the same. Just read a line or two. Advent by Patrick Kavanagh. We have tested and tasted too much, lover. Through a chink too wide, there comes in no wonder. But here in the Advent darkened room, where the dry black bread and the sugarless tea of penance will charm back the luxury of a child's soul, we'll return to doom the knowledge we stole but could not use. He goes on to talk about the newness that we used to find in everything, but now it's become stale. And we all know that, I think. We know how wonder gets lost when we lose the ability to just stop and stare. And for all of us, in this series, we've talked a lot about awareness and about connection with the greater than human world out there. We've talked a lot about presence. I think that we have some idea what that's about. Stopping and staring, just being present, being in the moment. Simple acts of awareness can happen with music. And the first thing that comes to my mind would be percussion, a simple beat that reflects the heartbeat. And there are a lot of pieces of music, tribal music, for example, online, very gentle drumming beats that are very, very interesting to listen to and very soothing. There are, of course, natural sounds of rivers. And there's the dawn chorus, which speaks for itself. Nobody needs to say good morning. When you hear the birds singing, it's the morning time. Music is so powerful. And Oliver Sacks was the man who said that music brings back our personhood. We covered that in previous sessions. But there's something else that I want to say here, is that it's not just music, it's rhyme, isn't it? It's recitation, it's repetition that sometimes soothes us, the same thing over and over again. For those of you who are in a choir, you might understand the power of that. Some of the songs are full of words and melodies and everything, but there are other songs that are so simple, like plain chant, that they stay in your soul and you can hear them hours later, reverberating around your person. I think our older people benefit greatly by that kind of music, and also by anything that has a particular melody and harmony. They bring harmony. Let's not forget the wonderful benefits of virtual travel for stillness and all that we can use on our computer, all the different facilities. We talked before about virtual travel bringing us to places like China to watch the cherry blossom trees bloom, and to go to New England at this time in the autumn to see the colors of leaves changing. I have never, ever met anybody who didn't enjoy that. Just to, take a kind of virtual tour, walking on leaves down through the avenue of trees. Absolutely beautiful. I'm going to do it later today now that I've just reminded myself. But there are also many other films. There's a time-lapse videos of flowers opening, sometimes to a gentle melody, and they are beautiful. To see a flower come to bud, burst into a flower, and indeed then go back, fade and shrink, disappear, while another bud comes on. Wonderful. So at this time of year, particularly people who are maybe quite elderly or maybe in palliative care, they really enjoy the indoor bulbs blooming before Christmas. They love to see the cyclamen, the red and the pink and the white. And they love the amaryllis. That's a real popular one. I have one downstairs that's just going to burst into bloom probably tomorrow. It's wonderful. You could spend all day watching it. You really could. All of these things bring stillness, bring simplicity. Something that we're trying to do during the series is really to look at what is very, very best to help a person to flourish. And we've talked about all the different parts of that, this is me, getting to know the person, and gathering information down through the months and weeks and years, possibly, and keeping, a good eye on changes in the person and all the rest. But of course, in the real world, what's happening is the staff are changing over, and different people have different roles of responsibility within the nursing home and indeed within the family. So the background situation very often changes for a person living with dementia. I know many situations where things were going along great until finances ran out, for example. The circumstances were very different for the person living with dementia. At the beginning, maybe there was home help and family were all novel to this whole idea. They were visiting and they were bringing all sorts of things over. Grandchildren were making photograph albums and writing little special poems to Granny and this kind of thing. And people came in with memorabilia from the person's life. But very often these things peter away over the years or the months. And you could be left with some dog-eared little bits and scraps of things, which is dreadful. It doesn't do any justice to a person and to their life, the life that they've lived. So I really feel that it's incredibly important that these valuable bits and pieces are not lost. And there's different ways, of course, of ensuring that they're not lost. They should be in a safe place and they need to be protected against being destroyed by, contamination with food or God knows what that's going on in a place, cleansing materials and the rest. So it's really, really important because as a person proceeds in their dementia, they're less able to say, well, listen, this is who I am. This really matters to me. So I was thinking of this in relation to a woman who was in her 90s, and she was very, very outspoken about good care and what it meant to her and to other people around her. And I asked her name was Nellie. I don't mind telling you because it's a number of years ago, many years ago. And Nellie said, would you ever, she said, have some kind of a list that you could give some of these carers? She said, because some of them don't seem to understand, what I need and, anything about me. Would you make a list? And instead of just making a list for her, I had something like that. I thought I'd make a general list so that for any of us, you and me and anybody you're looking after, if a person is unable to tell you what is it they need, if they are now still, if their voice doesn't speak anymore, if their language is like my mother's language got very scrambled 5 years before the end of her life and then disappeared completely 3.5 years before she died. I mean, she was completely nonverbal for 3.5 years. So it was really important that when new nurses and carers came along, indeed new doctors, that we translated our mother and her needs and her ways. And what did she really mean when she raised her eyebrows up? Or what did she mean when she went, oh, no, 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 no. What does she mean by that? Or what food does she like? Or, all of these things. So I wrote a list here, and I just like to look at the list. Getting to know me. So this is in the stillness of our life, the sunset of our life, maybe. These are hopefully the things that are important to each and every one of us. Know the importance of my name, what exactly that is, how I felt about my name or my nickname. The importance of that first introduction to this place, because I think everybody has their feelings still there about how they felt about this place. This place I'm now living in is dark, or it's bright, or it's noisy, or I love it. Oh, it's full of people and plants and it's colorful. Or sometimes it's okay, but there's some people here I don't like. How does a person feel about their environment and where they're living? And what things do they not like? I, for one, can say, I don't think I'd like the medicine trolley to be going around every day. I prefer if the staff could come over one by one and give out tablets to people. Don't like that trolley going around. Don't like the sound of it. And I know a woman, and she said, would you ever get rid of that girl who comes in and sings with that hat on her head? And I thought, why? And I didn't realize that this woman had gathered from the other members of the residents as well, that this person made them feel uncomfortable. I don't know what it was. Maybe a lack of eye contact. Maybe just a particular way she went on, particular way she dressed. But interesting that one person was able to say, we don't like this. Another time, a person made a comment about the food in a place where I worked. And that was very interesting because the boss did not want to hear the negative comment on the food and what it looked like. But I tell you, the food had to change very quickly. The appearance and the separation on the plate into 3 different areas, all that had to improve because this person spoke out. But it's when a person can't speak out. Here's another one on the list. Be aware of where I am emotionally. Now I have an aunt at the moment who is very much at the end of her life. And I know where she is emotionally because I visited her and I know her. She said, I'm just tired. I've never been so tired. I'm absolutely at the end. I've no energy. Avoid asking me so many questions. Many people will say that. There's great wonder in just walking over to a person and looking at them. Maybe smiling or doing some kind of thing like, oh God, I've had such a tough day, or oh, not again, or whatever. Use body language maybe rather than too many words. Because of course the body language reaches a person with dementia much more quickly than the words. Stop asking so many questions. People come in and they think that that's a visit. Well, how are you? Did you get your dinner? Oh, I see you got your hair washed. Are you happy? Do you want anything? I think a visitor, when they come in, they bring so much with them. They bring the smell of outdoors, the freshness. Why don't they come in with the news of outdoors and all of that? Stop asking questions. Please explain things gently to me. It's on the list as well. So many people in dementia, living with the dementia, feel that things are being done to them all the time. That must be terrible. I mean, which of us wants things done to you? You want to be asked, would this be a good time to trim your nails, or would you like your beauty therapy now? You know, should maybe be the only questions that are asked. Smile at me. Genuinely look into my face. Appreciate me and smile at me. Listen. Please be patient. I know I repeat things. I need people to be patient. Always offer me a choice, please. How many times do people decide what I'm eating for my lunch or for my dessert? Please offer me a choice. Please write down things that matter to me. You know I like to remember the name of that man in my wedding photograph. Please write down his name, so when he comes in, I will remember. Please write down what day of the week it is. That should be up on the wall. Please ask people to assist me. You know the people in my life who matter to me. Please ask them when they come in to take me for a walk around the garden. Please get my niece to bring me in that heavy coat she keeps saying she must bring in so I can go out to the garden. Please look at photos with me and recall memories with me. There's so many happy days that I want to remember and I want to recall. Please give me comfort. I would love a cushion under my feet. I would love a rug around my neck in the evenings. The winters are getting cold already. Please never talk over my head. One thing that comes up again and again is that people talk to others with dementia in an insincere tone. They put this happy little tone on their voice and they say things that are sometimes not happy things. Please watch the tone and be sincere with me, because I read the tone. Never treat me like a child. Please treat me as a unique person. You know, I once traveled the world. You know, I was a teacher and I was a traffic cop. You know, I once was a hairdresser. I once made the best apple tarts in Ireland. Please remember these things. Please get to know the inner me, the true essence of my personality. If my religion matters to me, please ensure there's a space in my life for that. If poetry charms me, enlivens me, please be sure that I have poetry or that I have my classical music in the evening. Please celebrate my individuality. I am not the same as any other person sitting here, although I might look very similar to some of them. So in everything you do with me, helping me to keep my hair, my clothes, myself together, please remember the most important thing is my essence, the inner person I am. Tell me all is well and share some fun with me. Keep it light. Life can be tough. So that list I compiled after talking to this lady, Nellie. She said, write it all down, Joyce. She said, it's very important that people understand where we're at. She said, you know, I celebrate the fact that Mayo had a great win. You know, I celebrate that. I might not say it. I might not express it. And maybe nobody knows. But in my heart leaps for joy when Mayo do well in the football. So that's just bringing us back to this idea for today that there is beauty in the mundane, in the everything. There's so many moments that can be full of magic. And I want to return now to nature, which is an area that I always come back to, and say that sometimes just seeing a bumblebee outside a window or a butterfly on a flower can do so much for a person without words. Just witnessing a spider's web with frost on it in the winter, or to see the dust particles flying around in a beam of light. Sometimes all of these very simple, ordinary, everyday things become miraculous. They become magical because they are sometimes a metaphor for our own life, for something that's happening within us. You know, there might be something blossoming within us, and there might be something really dying within us. And we see all of this very, very often in nature around us. If I had my way, I would make sure that every older person had the experience of going to the zoo, of going to the botanical gardens, of going into the museums and the art galleries, the great stimulus of the outdoor, of other people, of art, animals and plants and places. If I had my way, I would let an older person drift and have a wonderful, wonderful experience that one would get maybe with meditation, that kind of thing. That would be my wish. I think that awe and delight are found very often just around where we are in the mundane, in the everyday. Now, there's research to back this up. We talked before, of course, about these things, but just a reminder to improve your attentional capacity, your capacity to pay attention, to spend time looking out the window, like our dog does at the end of the day. He stares and listens to every sound of the evening, you know. Ulrich and Parsons have done a lot on this. You can look it up if you like. Ulrich and Parsons, 1989. Very, very interesting. Ulrich and Parsons, 1991 and 1992. Also, people can have huge benefits in nature, increased feelings of calm and relaxation. Moore, 1989. A great sense of improved satisfaction. Blair et al., 1991. And a man called Ralph did a lot on increasing pride and accomplishment, 1982. There are so many of these experiments that have been done, improving all of these. Social functioning, improve social functioning through peace and calm and quiet. Langer and Roden, all Langer, Roden, 1976. There's great papers here. But we know that time in nature is very calming and helps a person to flourish. And I have to say, in Ireland, unfortunately, it's just October now. Very often people don't get out. From now until next May, I have seen people can become locked in nursing homes and in homes. And I think that is doing a great disservice to them, except for people, of course, who are bedbound. So I highly recommend the thermal underwear and the thick socks and the boots and the scarves and the hats, because if a person is warmly wrapped up, even before they go out, they're feeling really comforted. They're feeling really minded and looked after, all their best things on and their scarves and their brooches and everything. And then a simple walk in the garden, or a time even at the back door, or under shelter or in a hot, sunny corner can be just magical for them. And a lot of research has been done into this, and they're saying you need 2 hours a week. You can't really get a great benefit for under the 2 hours in the week. So 2 hours in the week of awe and delight, smelling the air, the cold smoke of the fires starting up now, and the smell of fog and damp in the air, or after rain, or indeed frost, that crisp air, the sound of leaves, the call of the birds who are now congregating, about to migrate. These things are fantastic for somebody living with dementia. The ordinary, everyday, the fellow arriving to work on his bicycle, the lorry pulling away, or the sound of an ambulance or a police car in the distance. These are all parts of life, and they chime with us. They remind us that there was a time when we were much busier and much more involved and much more engaged, and now it's a time for rest. So I wish that for every older person. I wish them silence, stillness, peace, harmony, beautiful music, and perfect care. It was lovely talking to somebody recently about perfect care. This woman was telling us that she spent a lot of time trying to reach somebody, and she finally did reach them. And this person has come out of themselves now and is open. That's a wonderful thing. It's working when somebody is open to you and looks at you and gives you their attention. They're saying, I trust you. I think that's the least that people deserve. I think it's so easy to provide once we are sensitive, well-informed, but also once we're allowed. My heart goes out to the carers, healthcare workers who have to look to the hierarchy of needs and put pressure on themselves. I've heard people say I had to shower 7 people in the first hour. What kind of care is that? Mealtimes. Mealtimes can be the most delightful time of the day if they're properly done. Dressing times can be exciting, or undressing, getting ready for the evening, for bed, for rest, can be really, really restful if it's done with a certain tenderness. And that's what we need. Tenderness turns the mundane into magic. Look forward to talking to you next time, our last session for this year. And look after yourselves.